My 8-year-old daughter was banned from Christmas dinner. My grandmother told her she wasn't worthy of sitting at their table. My cousin said there wasn't room for her and shut her in a dark basement. When I discovered what happened, I didn't scream. I didn't threaten. I took action. Within weeks, their entire world came crashing down. This is how it all unfolded. Or collapsed, depending on your perspective. Christmas, the holiday that's supposed to celebrate togetherness, compassion, and family bonds. Instead, it became the day everything shattered. That morning started like any other winter illness. My husband Marcus woke up unable to keep anything down. Our 4-year-old son, Jamie, had it worse. Burning fever, flushed skin, coughs that rattled his tiny chest. When my daughter Sophia, 8 years old, sharp as a tack and full of endless energy, begged to attend Christmas dinner without us, every instinct told me to say no. "Please, Mom," she pleaded, clutching the handmade card she'd spent hours creating for Grandma Patricia. "I promise I'll behave perfectly." My grandmother Patricia had already called that morning, her voice dripping with reassurance. "Of course we'll watch over her, Rebecca. She'll have such fun with Madison and Olivia." Madison and Olivia, those were the daughters of my cousin Jennifer, ages 10 and 9 respectively. Jennifer was the type of woman who could weaponize kindness, turning every gesture into a subtle competition. Against every warning bell ringing in my head, I agreed. Sophia put on her emerald green dress, the one she'd been excited about for weeks, grabbed her overnight bag with her favorite stuffed elephant, and left with Patricia. I convinced myself everything would be fine. That's what we do with family, right? We trust them. Around 7 in the evening, I sent a quick text to check in. No response. 10 minutes passed, I called. Straight to voicemail, I tried again. And again. Finally, Patricia answered, her voice strained and hurried, like I'd interrupted something she didn't want interrupted. "Hey, Grandma," I said, keeping my tone light. "How's Sophia doing?" "Oh, she's perfectly fine," Patricia replied, but something in her inflection felt off. "Can I talk to her real quick?" Well, Patricia hesitated in a way that made my stomach drop. "She's in timeout at the moment." "Timeout? What happened?" "She was disrespectful to Madison and Olivia. You know how delicate those girls are. We told her to stay in the basement until she learned some manners." "She's 8 years old," I said, my voice hardening. "What exactly did she do?" "It's nothing major, Rebecca. She just needs to understand boundaries." "Boundaries? Grandma, put her on the phone, now." There was a long pause, then, "Not right now. We're about to serve dinner." Click. She hung up on me. I stood frozen in the kitchen, phone still pressed to my ear, my mind racing through possibilities. Maybe Sophia had a meltdown. Maybe they were trying to teach her appropriate behavior. Maybe. But I knew my family. When they started using words like disrespectful and boundaries, it meant someone had challenged their authority. And Sophia? She was honest to a fault. Too honest. I grabbed my keys without a second thought. The drive to Patricia's house was 45 miles through icy roads and heavy traffic. I turned off the radio. My heartbeat was the only sound I needed. I kept seeing Sophia's face, the way she'd carefully tucked her stuffed elephant into her bag, the glittery snowflake she'd made for Grandma's tree. She'd been so proud, so full of joy. The thought of her sitting alone in a basement while everyone else celebrated made my blood boil. When I pulled up to the house, it looked picture perfect. Wreaths on the door, warm light glowing through the windows, faint music drifting outside, but I knew better. Beautiful facades often hide ugly truths. Patricia opened the door with manufactured surprise, the kind people wear when they've been caught. "Rebecca, oh, honey, you didn't need to drive all this way. Where's Sophia?" I asked flatly. Her smile wavered. "She's fine. Just taking a little break." I pushed past her. Laughter echoed from the dining room, the easy, satisfied laughter of people who've done something cruel and justified it to themselves. Jennifer was pouring wine, her husband Derek staring at his plate like he wished he could disappear into it. "Where is she?" I repeated, louder this time. Jennifer sighed dramatically. "In the basement." She was acting impossible. threw a fit because she couldn't sit between Madison and Olivia. We told her she could join us once she apologized. Did you feed her? Jennifer blinked at me. She'll eat once she says she's sorry. I stared at her in disbelief. Sorry for what? For being ungrateful, Jennifer said. She told Grandma she didn't want the food if it meant eating alone. Can you even believe that? Actually, yes, I said. I can. The basement door was at the end of a narrow hallway. It was closed. When I tried the handle, it didn't budge. Locked from the outside. The key was still in the lock. I turned it slowly, my hand shaking with rage. Inside, the basement was dim and cold. No lights, no blanket, no comfort. And there was Sophia, curled up on the concrete floor, her beautiful dress wrinkled and dirty, her face streaked with tears. She looked up so fast it shattered my heart into pieces. Mommy? She whispered, her voice barely audible. I knelt beside her and pulled her into my arms. She gripped me like I was the only solid thing in her world. They said I was bad. She mumbled against my shoulder. They said I don't deserve to eat with them. Her stomach growled audibly between her words. They said there wasn't enough food for me. I closed my eyes, fighting back tears of pure fury. Behind me, Jennifer's voice drifted from the hallway. You're making this into something it's not, Rebecca. When I carried Sophia through the living room, no one looked at me. Derek stared at the floor. Patricia fiddled with her napkin. Even Madison and Olivia stopped laughing. That's the sound of guilt filling a room. Heavy silence. I reached the front door. Rebecca, Patricia said, her voice strained. You're completely overreacting. I laughed. One short, bitter sound. You said the exact same thing when you slapped me for crying at my own 7th birthday party. The words escaped before I could stop them, but I didn't regret saying them. I walked out into the freezing night. Sophia fell asleep in the car on the way home, still clutching her stuffed elephant. Every time I glanced in the rearview mirror, I saw her small, peaceful face, pale and exhausted. She stirred once. Mommy? Yes, baby? They don't like me. My throat tightened. That's not true, sweetheart. Then why did they lock me up? I had no answer for that. Not one that made sense to an 8-year-old. At home, I tucked her into bed beside Jamie, kissed her forehead, and turned off the light. Then I sat at the kitchen table staring at my phone. Patricia's number glowed on the screen. I called. She answered immediately. Rebecca, if you're calling to apologize... I hung up. The house was silent the next morning. Sophia slept late, exhausted from the emotional trauma. Jamie's fever had finally broken. The kitchen clock ticked its steady rhythm, the same as always, but something fundamental had shifted inside me. I kept replaying Sophia's voice. They said I don't deserve to eat with them. I thought I knew my family. I thought I understood the depths they could sink to. But apparently I'd been giving them too much credit. Cruelty wasn't new in my family. It just wore better disguises now. Growing up, the household was divided. Patricia and Jennifer on one team. My grandfather Robert and me on the other. It started as a joke. Patricia's favorite is Jennifer, Grandpa Robert would tease. Mine's Rebecca, everyone laughed. I did too, because I didn't understand jokes can be weapons. Jennifer was 7 years older, already sophisticated at 12 when I was still playing with dolls. She knew how to flatter, how to perform, how to say exactly what Patricia wanted to hear. Me? I was the baby, which sounded endearing until it meant be quiet and your opinion doesn't matter. Grandpa Robert protected me. He'd sneak me cookies after dinner and whisper, "You've got a good soul, kiddo. Don't let them convince you otherwise." Then, when I was 11, he died suddenly. Heart attack at 62, the house changed overnight. Whatever warmth existed evaporated with him. Patricia didn't grieve openly, at least not where I could see. She just became efficient, clinical, like she was managing a corporation instead of a family. Jennifer stepped right into the power vacuum. After that, there were no more teams. Just one united front, Patricia and Jennifer against the world. They cooked together, made decisions together, laughed at inside jokes together. I became an outsider in my own home. When I spoke, They corrected me. When I stayed silent, they called me sulky. On my 12th birthday, this memory still stings, I started crying when everyone sang happy birthday. I wasn't sad, just overwhelmed by attention, Patricia hissed. Stop causing a scene, and grabbed my arm hard enough to leave marks. She told everyone I was overly emotional. Jennifer smirked. I never cried at birthdays again. Eventually, I learned not to cry at all. By high school, the patterns were set in stone. Jennifer got the later curfews, the easier chores, the shopping trips. When she talked back, Patricia called it assertiveness. When I did, it was disrespect. I kept a mental tally. Every slight, every double standard, every injustice. I never voiced them, just added another mark to an invisible scoreboard. By 18, that list was long enough to fill volumes. So I left. Got a full scholarship to study accounting at Northwestern. Grandpa Robert would have been so proud, Patricia said. I don't understand why you'd choose something so cold and heartless, I replied. Because numbers don't play favorites. She didn't find it funny. I worked through college, night shifts at a diner, weekend tutoring jobs, summer internships. The day I paid off my student loans at 26, I sat alone in my apartment and realized I'd never once asked them for help. That's when I knew I'd healed all wrong. When I bought my first house in Chicago at 29, Patricia called it financially reckless. When Jennifer leased a luxury car she couldn't afford, Patricia gushed, "You deserve to treat yourself." Still, I kept the peace, helped Patricia financially when she asked, paid utility bills, helped her refinance her mortgage, co-signed loans so she could get better rates. Ironic, really. The same house I'd felt like a ghost in, and I ended up keeping it financially stable for 15 years. Jennifer? She contributed holiday cards and occasional lasagna. When we both became mothers, I thought maybe things would soften. They didn't. Sophia was 4 when the old patterns found new targets. At Sunday brunch, she spilled orange juice. Patricia snapped, "You're old enough to be careful, Sophia!" Pay attention. 10 minutes later, Madison did the same thing. Patricia gasped like she'd witnessed tragedy. "Oh, sweetheart, accidents happen." "Don't worry, we'll clean it up," Jennifer added. "I'll get you ice cream later, baby." Sophia looked at me across the table, confused. I smiled like it didn't hurt. Then came the please and thank you enforcement. When Sophia forgot, Patricia called her rude. When Olivia forgot, Patricia said she was having a quiet day. Toys, snacks, turn-taking, every time the judgment was identical. Sophia was wrong. Madison and Olivia were right. Each time I told myself not to make a scene. Not in front of the children. I'd sit there smiling, eating my food, pretending family still meant something. But after that locked basement door, I finally understood. It didn't start with Sophia. It started with me. All those years of being told to speak softer, take less, apologize more, those lessons didn't disappear. They just found a new victim. My daughter became the new target of an ancient pattern, and I'd allowed it because I wanted to believe we'd evolved. I thought if I stayed calm, I could rise above them, be the bigger person. But calm only works on reasonable people. With my family, it was just permission to continue. They interpreted silence as surrender, so when I didn't yell, when I carried Sophia out without a word, they thought they'd won again. They didn't realize silence could be strategic. The first few days after Christmas were deceptively peaceful, like the eerie calm before a hurricane. Marcus recovered fully. Jamie's fever disappeared. Sophia, my resilient little fighter, went back to drawing elaborate princess castles on every available surface. The house smelled like crayons and chicken soup, the ordinary scent of normal family life. But underneath that normalcy, something sharp was forming. I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, dozens of tabs glowing in the darkness. Bank accounts, payment portals, transaction histories. Every number on those screens had my name attached. Every automatic transfer, every support payment I'd been making out of obligation, out of guilt, out of habit. 18 years of financial caretaking, disguised as family duty. I took a long sip of coffee and started shutting them down. One by one. Click. The monthly grocery. Allowance. Cancelled. Click. The automatic utility. Payment. Terminated. Click. The mortgage transfer that had silently left my account on the 5th of every month for 7 years. Deleted. Each click felt like cutting a cord. Not vengeful. Just necessary. Like finally filing paperwork on a crime that had gone unpunished for decades. When Marcus walked in, I expected him to tell me I was being petty. That's what Patricia would have said. Instead, he looked over my shoulder, saw what I was doing, and nodded. Need help? He asked quietly. No, I said. I've got it, he smiled slightly. I know you do, that was all. No lecture about forgiveness. No appeals to family loyalty. Just quiet support. By the 4th day, I'd finished the cleanup. Every financial connection between me and Patricia's household was severed. I even drafted a formal email to the bank, just to make it official. Dear Sir or Madam, please note that I will no longer be contributing to mortgage payments or household expenses for the account under Patricia Henderson's name. Effective immediately, it looked almost professional, which somehow made it more powerful. I hit send, and for the first time in weeks, slept without that familiar knot of dread in my chest. The first call came the morning the mortgage payment was due. The bank processed payments on the 6th, since the 5th fell on a weekend. Rebecca. Patricia's voice was syrupy sweet with underlying tension. There's been some kind of banking error. The mortgage payment didn't process. No error, I said calmly. I canceled it. Pause. You canceled it? Yes. Another pause. Longer this time. Then panic started bleeding through the phone line. You can't just... Rebecca, they'll charge late fees. Why would you... Because I'm done, I said simply. I'm not paying your mortgage anymore. All this, she snapped, because of an 8-year-old's tantrum? The words hit like a physical blow. You mean my daughter's punishment, I corrected. Locked in a basement without food while you all ate Christmas dinner? She wasn't locked, she was. I turned the key myself. You're being hysterical. There it was, that word. Always that word. Goodbye, Grandma. Don't you dare hang up on... Click. I didn't hang up out of anger. I hung up because I'd already had that conversation too many times to mistake it for something productive. The second call came an hour later. Jennifer, naturally. Wow, she said. Grandma's crying. You must feel so powerful right now. I don't feel powerful, I said. I feel free. Oh, please. You're really doing all this over discipline? Sophia threw a fit and She's 8, I interrupted. What exactly was so terrible that she deserved to be locked in a basement? She was disrespectful. She was hungry, I said. And scared. But I'm sure that detail didn't make it into your version of events. Jennifer scoffed. You're being dramatic. Just like Sophia, apparently. Guess we have drama queen number 2 now, she added with fake sweetness. I almost laughed. No, I said quietly. I think we just have one less fool. Click. The silence after felt surprisingly clean. I sat there staring at my phone, half expecting it to ring again. It didn't. Maybe they'd finally realized shouting at a wall wasn't productive. Or maybe they were too busy calculating what I'd actually done. Because for the first time in my life, I hadn't just said no. I'd followed it with action they couldn't reverse. I used to think breaking cycles meant forgiveness. That's what every self-help article says, right? Forgive to heal, but I had forgiven. For years. I'd forgiven every manipulation, every cruel comment, every double standard. It hadn't freed me. It had trained them. Forgiveness without consequences is just permission, and I was done giving it. At first, I thought they'd finally gone quiet. For almost 10 days, no calls, no messages, just silence heavy enough to feel like victory. Then my phone started ringing. Aunt Michelle went first, her voice dripping with false concern. Rebecca, honey, I just wanted to reach out. People are worried about you. There are some concerning rumors going around about how you're disciplining Sophia. Withholding meals when she misbehaves? That can really damage a child psychologically. Ice flooded my veins. Who told you that? Oh, I'm not pointing fingers, she said quickly. We just thought you should know what people are saying. It's coming from a place of love. I hung up before she could finish pretending. By evening, 4 more relatives had called, each delivering the same soft accusation. Children need regular meals. You can't use food as punishment. We're just concerned. They didn't ask if it was true. They'd already decided it was, and I knew exactly who had planted those seeds. 3 days later, the school called. The secretary's voice was polite but strained. Mrs. Carter, could you come in tomorrow morning? The principal and guidance counselor would like to speak with you, in person. My stomach dropped. When I arrived, 2 staff members were waiting, Principal Henderson and school counselor Mrs. Park. They weren't unkind, but they looked like people forced into an uncomfortable conversation. Mrs. Carter, Principal Henderson began gently, we've received some concerning reports about Sophia's well-being at home. Concerning reports, I repeated, my voice sounding distant. Yes, Mrs. Park said, glancing at notes as if afraid to make eye contact. We've been told she's not eating properly, that she's being isolated in her room for extended periods, that there might be some instability at home. The words hung in the air like poison. My first reaction was disbelief, then nausea. They were talking about me like I was a threat to my own child. We're required to follow protocol, Principal Henderson said softly, so we'll be filing a report with Child Protective Services. It's standard procedure. Standard procedure, like a fire drill or a permission slip. I nodded mechanically, thanked them for their time, and walked out before my composure could crack. I made it to my car, closed the door, and finally broke down. Not loud sobbing, just silent shaking, one hand covering my mouth. Somewhere, Patricia and Jennifer were probably celebrating, convinced they'd finally put me in my place. Days crawled by without a CPS visit. Each one stretched thin with dread. I barely slept. Every car door outside made my heart race. Every knock sent adrenaline flooding through my system. I kept checking the front window like a criminal expecting arrest. Marcus kept telling me it would be fine. We have nothing to hide, he said. Logically, I believed him. Emotionally, I still jumped at every shadow. By the 7th night, I couldn't take it anymore. I called Patricia. She answered on the 2nd ring. Rebecca! Calm, controlled, the voice of someone who'd been expecting this. You called the school, I said flatly. She didn't deny it. People were concerned. People? Or you and Jennifer? A pause. Maybe if you hadn't abandoned your family, things wouldn't have escalated. I almost laughed. You mean if I'd kept funding your lifestyle? She sighed like I was a toddler refusing to eat vegetables. We're struggling with the mortgage, Rebecca. Family helps family. There it was, the threat wrapped in virtue. So you lied to the school? Told them I was neglecting my children? I told them I was worried, she said smoothly. Because clearly you're not thinking rationally. You've cut yourself off from everyone who loves you. Everyone who loves me? My voice came out quiet, steady. You mean everyone who uses me? Don't twist this into your victim narrative, she snapped. And something inside me finally broke free. You've spent my entire life calling it a victim narrative when it was just the truth. You controlled me. Then you tried to control my daughter. That ends today. She tried to respond, but I hung up. For a moment, I just sat there listening to silence, my pulse roaring. It was done. The next day, I started making calls of my own. 2 relatives had been present on Christmas. The quiet ones who'd watched Sophia's tears and said nothing. Both answered like they'd been waiting for me to reach out. Yes, one admitted quietly. I saw it. She was locked in that basement. We thought maybe you'd agreed to some kind of timeout arrangement. I hadn't. I know. We're sorry. We'll tell the truth if anyone asks. That was all I needed. Proof. Witnesses. The truth they'd all tried to bury under gossip. 2 weeks later, CPS finally arrived. 2 social workers, one young and energetic, one older and measured, showed up mid-morning with badges and clipboards. They were professional, but thorough. They walked through every room, checked the refrigerator, asked to see where the kids slept. Everything was clean, organized, clearly cared for. They spoke with Marcus, then with me, then gently with Sophia, who told them about her stuffed elephant and how Mommy made French toast on weekends. She seemed curious, not scared. Just wondering why these strangers were asking so many questions. After 90 minutes, they thanked us and left. I closed the door and exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. My hands trembling so badly I had to lean against the wall. I wasn't angry anymore, just empty. The next day, I called a lawyer. I explained everything, the locked basement, the lies to the school, the years of financial manipulation. Document everything, she advised. Messages, bank records, call logs. If CPS contacts you again, you'll have evidence ready, so I did. I created a folder. Every transaction, every bank statement, every email of support I'd ever sent, my entire history, reduced to digital proof. Then I waited. Days passed with no word from CPS. Just the sound of my phone not ringing. Fear transformed into something sharper. Resolve. I opened the extended family group chat, the one used for birthday announcements. Baby photos and passive-aggressive comments disguised as concern. My fingers were steady as I typed, "Since rumors are spreading, here are the facts. Sophia was locked in a basement and denied food by Patricia and Jennifer on Christmas Day. After discovering this, I stopped providing them financial support. In response, they filed false reports with Sophia's school, claiming I neglect my children. I have bank statements documenting 18 years of support and 2 relatives who witnessed what happened on Christmas. If these lies continue, my attorney will pursue legal action." Then I hit send. For several seconds, the chat was silent. Then messages started flooding in. "Wait, what? I was there. This is true." Sophia was crying. We should have said something. Within minutes, my phone exploded with notifications. Some were apologies. Some were shocked silence. In the middle of it all, Jennifer tried to defend herself, then stopped responding. By evening, Patricia and Jennifer were the only ones still in the chat. Everyone else had left. A week later, an envelope arrived. After thorough investigation, the letter read, "No safety concerns were identified. Case closed. No further action required." I read it 3 times to make sure it was real. Then I set it down and took the first truly deep breath I'd taken in a month. That night, I tucked Sophia into bed. She snuggled under her blanket and whispered, "We're safe now, right, Mommy?" I smiled, brushing hair from her forehead. "We are, sweetheart." She closed her eyes, and for the first time in what felt like forever, the house felt genuinely peaceful. Not tense. Not waiting. Just calm. Almost a year has passed and everything has changed. Patricia lost the house in August. She couldn't maintain payments once I stopped contributing. Jennifer didn't step up to help. Turns out the favorite draws the line at financial sacrifice. Patricia rents a small apartment now in a rough neighborhood in Gary, Indiana. From what I hear through the family grapevine, she and Jennifer barely speak. After the truth came out, the locked basement, the lies to the school, the false CPS report, the rest of the family cut them off. Everyone knows what happened. The cruelty they inflicted on an 8-year-old. The manipulation. The lies. The sympathy they expected never materialized. They're the outcasts now. I still see the others. We celebrate holidays together the way functional families do. It's surprisingly easy now. No tension. No performance. No pretending. Sophia's thriving. Started 3rd grade with confidence. Made honor roll last semester. Talks about becoming a veterinarian. Jamie's talking nonstop, asking a million questions about everything. Marcus and I are stronger than ever. Turns out, standing up for your family brings people closer together. Sometimes a cousin mentions that Patricia's been asking around for help again. Needs money for rent or utilities or car repairs. No one's offering. Not out of cruelty, out of self-preservation. Jennifer's busy trying to salvage her reputation, telling anyone who'll listen that she had nothing to do with what happened. That it was all Patricia's idea. No one believes her. I don't hate them. That would require emotional energy I no longer have for them. I just don't owe them anything anymore. The cycle is broken. The pattern is over, and my daughter will never know what it feels like to be the scapegoat in her own family. So did I go too far? Or not far enough? I'll let you decide.